Alright, now once we have the idea of what trial and error is, now let's try another problem. So I'm going to go through this from the very beginning, again, always. When we're factoring at all, our first rule is to factor out the GCF. And in this problem that we have here, there is no GCF. So now we look to see how many terms we have. There are 3 terms, and the first coefficient is a 1, so we have to factor by the trial and error method. So I'm going to put in my parentheses first. And if you'll remember from what we did before with the trial and error method, this first part, or these first terms in the binomial, comes from the first term in the trinomial. So we have to think of what times what gives us p squared. Well, that would be p times p. Now, we look to the last term of the trinomial for our last terms in the binomials. So I'm going to think of negative 24 and all of the factors of that will, anything that multiplies together, of course, is a factor. So where I'm looking for factors of 24, and remember, I want to find a combination of 2. So let's see, 1 times 24, but that won't give me a combination of 2. 2 times 12, that won't work. 3 times 8, well, that won't work. 4 times 6, now that would work. Multiplying 4 times 6, you get 24, and if they're opposite signs, we'll get negative 24. So that tells us that one of these has to be positive and the other one has to be negative. Now, how will they come together to give us a positive 2? Well, that would work if the 6 was positive and the 4 was negative. Negative 4 plus 6 would give us a positive 2. So that tells us that we have negative 4 and positive 6 as part of our factors. But now let's think about this for a second. Negative 4 times positive 6 is negative 24, but we still have this q squared here also. So we need to add q to the 4 and the 6. Now, negative 4q and positive 6q multiply together to give us negative 24q squared. And in the center, let me erase these really quick so we can see what we're doing here. In order to check the middle to make sure that you have that middle term correctly, you need to think about your inner terms and your outer terms. So our inner terms here would be negative 4pq, always write them in alphabetical order, and p times 6q would be 6pq. So when we combine these, that does give us a positive 2pq. So that tells us that this is our factorization.